let's get this party started. So, today we have a little bit of a better introduction for you. And I'm going to double check before I start to make sure that we're not having the same technical issues we were having yesterday. So, let's see. Here we go. Moment of truth. It looks like I'm matching. Ababa. Yep, perfect. Excellent. All right, here we go. Okay. So, of course, this is the wrong notebook. Hello, and welcome to everyone joining us. Oh, wait. Is this the... Okay. Well, that's fun. Is this the right one? It's not. You prepare, and sometimes it still decides to be silly, but I have it saved somewhere else because I have a backup. Is this somewhere else installed on this computer? We're getting there. Well, I'm pretty sure this is the right one. Ooh, wrong screen. Yeah, this isn't right. Okay, well, I know where the better one is, so give me a second. If it'll let me log in. Goodness gracious. Oh, I see. Yeah, I wish. That's so annoying. Okay. Well, I have it on my phone. Actually, I don't need to waste my time with this computer, so let's get started. Go into here. And... okay, so we have that. Oh, is this also failing? Oh, that's neat. Backup of a backup of a backup. An error has occurred. Good timing. Maybe if I try it on the cell signal. Maybe that, or we'll go here. You know what? We'll go with this introduction for now. It's not the draft that I'd prefer, but let's go for it. Hello and welcome to everyone joining us live on day 3 of our journey towards a milestone where our voice for neurodiversity echoes louder than ever before, aiming to reach beyond the scope of Autism Speaks. I'm Kevin, your host and advocate from NeuroUnify, and today we're uniting for a cause that's close to our hearts, the DFW Autism Support Group. For those new here, let me share a bit about what we stand for. Our support group has been a cornerstone for individuals and families affected by autism, offering guidance, resources, and most importantly, a community that understands. From personal growth workshops to simply sharing our day-to-day victories and challenges, we've been doing this for years, and it's something we believe is truly worth nurturing. Now, let's talk about why we're here today. Our mission is twofold and urgent. Our first goal is to ensure that everyone who wants to be a part of our in-person this is where it got problematic. Yeah. Okay. We'll skip that part for now. Your contributions are not just donations. They're the lifeblood of change and progress. They're the assurance that our support group not only survives but thrives and expands to meet the growing needs of our community. So, as we delve into today's agenda, I invite you to ponder, how can we all contribute to the enrichment of our neurodiverse family? How can each of us be a part of this transformative movement? With that, we're going to dive into our first segment. And it's actually that I've pulled up a few Q&As or a few questions from the overall Reddit community, and hopefully I'll be able to shed some light or give some information to those people who are seeking support. And that's a vital subject for all of us here at NeuroUnify. And remember that throughout this stream, the floor is yours as much as it is mine. We're here for dialogue, for exchange, and for togetherness. So, let's get this show started. So I think, based on the schedule, we're going to start off with a little bit of news, which I think the ideal way to go about that is going to be to continue with the article that we were reading last time. So let me get that pulled up for us real quick. So this guy, and then Control-Shift-T, a whole bunch to restore every tab I've ever closed. It switched browsers for some reason. Oh, is that all of them? Okay. Okay. Oh, right. It's not going to be in the history. Nothing's going to be in the history because I rebuilt this as a brand new computer. All right. So then I think I've got it on my little guy here. Sources, news. Okay. Well, you know what? We're going to skip ahead a little bit and go to the Reddit Q&A because that's what we have prepared, and we don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. So, let's switch here, this other focus. So the first question that we have is from user tvsks. I guess that's the end of it. Either that or there's a 50 in the minutes ago yeah. Anywho, so this question is this sensory seeking? I have to, okay. There's touch sensitivity spots on the outside of the screen. I'll have to get used to that. Oh my goodness. I have to constantly have TV, okay. Full screen, there we go. I have to constantly have TV or music on in the background. I also enjoy loud music and turning up my hi-fi for movies. I have a very respectable hi-fi/home theater. I can pick out sounds and I seem to hear things and nuances in the audio others can't. I also enjoy making music. My fidget is Chinese stress balls, the ones you rotate in your hands. I like them because they feel good in my hand and make a neat ringing sound. Agreed. I mean, I already have a couple things to comment on here. So first off, can completely relate to the feeling the need to have TV and music on in the background. I know for me, I need a sound that I can understand, comprehend, or ignore. I just noticed the camera's way too high. I'm so sorry. My phone's supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. Boop. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, that's a little better. As a reminder, we are still learning and growing. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, the background noise stuff, I can definitely relate to that a lot. I know for me it's a familiarity thing. If there's some kind of familiar voice or familiar sounds or repeating sounds, or like I know what the sound of a particular type of explosion is, or a fake gunshot, or certain actors or characters' voices, and those are, since they're familiar, they're comfortable, right? And what I've noticed is that when I'm able to process that quickly and I will say somewhat filter it out, I'm able to keep focus on the things that I'm trying to focus on. Otherwise, I'm struggling with hypervigilance, which is an issue where you will basically constantly be on the lookout. You're always, did I forget my water? I did. I'll have to take a step out in a minute. Where you're constantly trying to look over your shoulder, find the next threat, the next problem. You feel like if you're not constantly vigilant, if you're not constantly aware, you're going to be attacked. Either mentally, physically, whatever you might have associated with it, but essentially your nervous system is in high alert. And so I notice when I try to sleep without anything like background noise or anything like that, that there will be an issue with every single unfamiliar or unique sound is a perceived potential threat. And so I'll find myself focusing on it until I understand what it is, or I'm able to ignore it. Usually the two are not mutually exclusive, which causes a lot of problems. So I'll do music. I'll do, like, one of the things that I've really come to enjoy doing, I'm not sure if a lot of you know about it, but there's a subset of videos, probably on every platform, but I usually watch them on YouTube, where the ones I like the best are sort of they take audio clips from Star Trek and they will present it in a way where it's like you're a crew member on the Enterprise, which is their interstellar travel ship. And you'll hear like a little bit of like background noise, like somebody's working on something, and you'll hear a little bit of talking. It's quiet enough to where you can't hear specifically what they're saying, but there's familiarity with the characters and with the voices, and so it's easier to hear that and be like, I know these sounds, I'm familiar with these sounds, filter them out, go to sleep. During the day as well, if I'm trying to focus on work or something like that, even just having some really loud white, brown, or gray or pink noise or something like that going along can have a significant boon to my ability to focus and ability to feel healthy. Okay, this thing goes to sleep real fast. That might be fun to deal with. Is it fully asleep, or did it pass out? And have I been talking for 15 minutes? No, not even close. Wow. Okay. So, respectable hi-fi home theater. I mean, I don't know about respectable. I tend to do the whole Goodwill thing. So if I could find a good discount at Goodwill on something, I'll look at the speakers, look at them online, see the reviews. And I've gotten some pretty significant home theater equipment that way before. Because there's something about the need for the clarity, too. I could really tell how muddy and indistinct most sound systems are, right? When you have that sort of hypersensitivity to sound processing stuff, you become a little more familiar with the nuance, mostly because of how difficult it is to filter stuff out. In general, like with the crowded audio or crowded places and stuff like that, all the reverberation, the echoing, it makes everything really muddy, which makes it even harder to pick out. But if you get crystal clear audio, it's usually a little easier, right? I also enjoyed making music, and that's not just me quoting it, that's me relating as well. They got I like them because they feel good in my hand and make a neat ringing sound. My biggest stim is moving my toes up and down when I'm sitting. I love the feeling of my socks rubbing against my toes and feet when I do it. I also love colored light and have a lot of RGB lighting I use frequently. So are at least some of these behaviors sensory seeking, or am I not understanding the definition? They're all like those. Short answer, yes. A lot of that is sensory seeking behavior. You're looking for heightened stimulus. I almost just put it to sleep myself. We don't want to do that. I mean, it kind of goes back to a lot of the stuff that I was referring to with having sort of control or choice over the stimuli that you're ingesting into your body plays a huge role in the comfort level you feel with the world around you, right? Like there's a level of powerlessness or lack of control when you're just being hounded by a bunch of sensory experience that is offensive or painful, right? But if you are able to drown that out or overload it with something pleasant or calming or familiar, you free up a lot of your mental resources. And so that's kind of one of the big reasons that there's so much of a problem with some of the concepts behind ABA, because that stimulation is a big part of what makes us functional, right? And if you try to correct self-soothing behaviors, you just end up with somebody who's irritated, right? And I think a lot of people on the spectrum get a reputation for being irritable. Well, I don't want to say a lot of people. I would say there's a public perception that there's an irritability and an aggression and an anger issue, and I think it's more, at least in my experience, a disrespect issue, lack of patience, lack of consideration. It's you need to do this because you're supposed to do it and you should know better, which is not usually a logic train that will work on your average person on the spectrum. So yeah, most of these are pretty good sensory seeking activities. I think this person has a pretty good grasp on what they're trying to do. Let's see, what are we looking at the schedule? Yeah, I wonder what happened to my original. That's sad. Okay, so we'll go back here. We're going to move on to the next one. Oh, I might have to scroll a little bit to... Okay. All right, so this is called How Do You Recover from a Meltdown by the user worldly_character_85. I'm willing to bet this person is 1 year older than me. You'll never guess how I figured it out. Either that or they just like the number 85. Okay, so might be triggering : self-loathing. Okay, I cannot seem to get happy with where this mic is placed, but I'm sure eventually we'll have a happy middle ground, probably because I fidget too much. All right, how do you recover from a meltdown? First, I want to preface this by saying that I am not officially diagnosed. I want to pause there saying the value in being officially diagnosed is the value that you define on it. I think the vast majority of people in the community who are open-minded and up-to-date on the research don't see a lot of value in a medically defined disorder being applied to you. It's usually the freedom that comes with the diagnosis for most people who get it is having an answer, having a box, having some direction pointed in to go. If you've found out about autism, if you found the community and you relate, that's usually good enough. The important part about it is to not feel alone and broken, to know that you're a human being just like anybody else. Let me scroll down a little bit more so that there's, yeah. Okay. And half the time, I'm not officially diagnosed, and half the time I don't feel like I'm justified to say that I'm autistic. My diagnosed friend says that I'm like her, that I'm autistic and have ADHD. I get by in life well enough, and I don't really need the help of others unless I'm having a panic attack / meltdown. Today in uni, I had a presentation, and I really dread those. I wonder if there's value in voicing it a little better. Probably just neutral because they're autistic as well. I really dread those. Over the past couple of years, I was able to get through them with no incidents. I even gave one presentation I'm so very proud of, but I haven't been able to replicate it since. In today's presentation, I could barely get through my intro, and by the time I got into the presentation itself, I couldn't get the words out. I excused myself, went to the restroom to have my panic attack meltdown. Oh no, it's trying to type. Get out of here, keyboard. Went to the restroom to have my panic attack / meltdown in private. My intrusive thoughts became audible, and I couldn't stop telling myself how worthless I am. How much of... Okay, I'm barely holding down. Why is everything got to be treated like a right click? What is this? I'm having some fun. It's more fun growing pains. Let's... Oh yeah, something's... Well, we'll deal with it. Okay. I could barely get through my intro, and by the time I got into the presentation itself, I couldn't get the words out. I excused myself, went to the restroom, my panic attack meltdown in private. My intrusive thoughts became audible, and I couldn't stop telling myself how worthless I am, how much of a burden I am to both myself and my friends. I kept telling myself that they feel obligated to help me, that I'm such an inconvenience to them, that I can't seem to get anything right, especially true this semester. And I broke the promise I made myself to hold it together till the end of the semester. And see, that's kind of part of the problem. Right there, you can already see it, is they're not allowing themselves to feel their feelings when they're feeling them. Right? I can't feel my feelings. That's essentially how I read it, at least. The idea of holding it together is usually coded words for acting normal, right? Or behaving like everybody else, or when you're on the spectrum, we feel everything 100% pretty much. So it's hard to say keeping it together is any different than not letting yourself feel when you're in the context of all of this stuff. Because it's okay to break down. It's okay to melt down. Like you're absolutely allowed to do that now. Like I like what this person did is they tried to find a private spot to where hopefully they felt safe. But I think more likely the thing is they didn't want to be seen, right? And that's part of what makes this kind of stuff hard too, right? Or at least my own personal experience has shown me that sharing my feelings with people is often unsafe or unwise because they'll challenge, doubt, deny, invalidate them in some form or another. And it taught me to not trust my own perception of my own inner world, which is an awful thing to think about in hindsight, right? Nobody else can read your mind. You're the best chance you have on knowing what's going on in your head. And if you don't let yourself be seen or validated by other people, then you only have what's in your head, right? And that's where it gets scary too. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, I called it. I hate these feelings so much, and I remember I spent most of my life thinking I was better than everybody because I didn't think I had feelings. Because that tends to be a very common way for people on the spectrum to learn to cope, is if you can't, you're told your feelings are wrong, you're told your reactions are inappropriate, but you really don't have a lot of control over that. And so you just kind of teach yourself not to feel your feelings. And that feelings themselves are what are bad or wrong. Feelings need to be fixed. Feelings need to be changed. Feelings need to be eradicated. Every decision, everything I did, I thought that I was being so explicitly sure that my feelings had nothing to do with it. And it just kind of went to show like a fundamental understanding for me of what feelings are, right? I thought feelings were reactions. Feelings were some outward behavior, some inner demon that was conflicting with stuff. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm going rational with this. Sorry for peeking the microphone. It really put me in a position to be isolated, really, to not be able to connect with anybody in any meaningful way, because it always felt like I was doing the world a favor by being a cold, emotionless robot. But what the more I've learned about neurophysiology and sort of the holistic nature of the brain, body, and organs and everything, the more clear it's become that, or I guess the more inarguable it's become for me, that everything we do is based off some kind of feeling. If you're feeling calm and at peace, the thoughts that you have reflect that. If you're feeling anxious and uncertain, the thoughts that you have reflect that. And I think this forced understanding that a lot of us will end up coming to as children or as adolescents of, if those are what feelings are, then I don't have those. I don't relate to that. Creating this separation where suddenly we're not aware of our own feelings either in general. And that's alexithymia, and that is a problem, and it's bad. That's how that's how your body knows how to regulate itself. That's how your heart rate knows how to work. That's how your blood knows where to pump to, right? Like if you're in a heightened anxious state, your blood is going to your skeletal muscles, not your stomach. And so you'll end up with GI distress, and you'll end up with tenseness and headaches and nausea and nerve pain and muscle aches. And you'll do all these tests and they won't be able to see it because most of our medical model doesn't really acknowledge the impact that stress and trauma has on people. There's a joke amongst trauma-informed psychology that basically says if they took PTSD and CPTSD seriously, the DSM would be a pamphlet, right? I think the personality disorder diagnosis, obsession, all that other stuff, it all points to, if you're reading the literature and trying to follow along, it's like, oh, if these are things I'm doing, that means I am disordered, that means I am broken, that means I need to be fixed, right? And the nuance is just all missing, and so we end up in these places where we'll hate our feelings, and it's sad. Oh, that must have been great. And also, I'm gonna have to mute this. Boop. There we go. No more. All right. I hate these feelings so much, and my heart goes out to you, by the way. Who is this? Worldly character. I feel you very, very intensely, and it's rough. That reminds me, I forgot to do this. Bear with me for just una momento. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't need to scroll yet. I hate these feelings so much. They don't go away anymore. I can't count on my brain letting go of these things. There we go. Okay. I hate these feelings so much. I hate these feelings so much. They don't go away anymore. I can't count on my brain letting go of these things in a few weeks or months anymore. They're almost constantly replaying in the back of my mind. Lately, I think now we might need to scroll. Yeah. Lately, my mental health has been getting worse. It's a tough semester, according to all my seniors. I have been having more and more frequent meltdowns, both with detectable triggers and random ones. I've gone from having 1 or 2 meltdowns per month tops to now 1 or 2 a week, and I don't really get better in between. You know the feeling when you have a good cry and things actually feel a bit better because you let those feelings out? I don't get it anymore. Every cry I have feels incomplete, like I still have more I want to get out, but I just don't know what it is that wants out and how to let it out. I can't make myself cry as much anymore, and when I do, I can feel it that I'm not activating the right emotions. So much judgment. This is where it's all, I mean, not all, but it's a big part of it. That I'm not activating the right emotions, that I'm not targeting the source. So how do you recover from that, especially if you don't really have the luxury of time? I usually do all my studying last minute, aka the night before the exam anyways, but that doesn't feel quite enough this semester. How can I get back to who I was last year? First off, you can't. That's one of the things most human beings get in trouble with, is they want to go back, and that's not possible. The only thing that never changes is change. Right? P.S. I've sort of noticed that things have been steadily getting worse when my friend told me she believes I'm autistic. I researched grief has a big impact. And okay, anyway. Yes, a lot of symptoms do apply, but that doesn't feel enough. I've been using some of the self-help methods suggested for autistic people, and why they make me feel a bit better, I'm still not getting where I want. Also, I'm a girl, however they may factor in. Sorry for the long rant, and hope you have a pleasant rest of the day. So, yeah, like I was saying, I definitely relate to this a lot. Even with the crying stuff, right? Like, I know personally, I probably will never cry enough. And I think the majority of the struggle with that will come from that place of really trying to figure out what's wrong with yourself, which usually points to some kind of internalized ableism. And I think they're on the right course with this self-help stuff. I think one of the things they might not be considering is there's a level of grief and loss in finding out something like this, right? Especially if you have a preconceived notion of what it might mean. There can be a lot of trauma brought up and reinvigorated by that new awareness. I was diagnosed in my late 20s, and I went through a period of a couple years of pure devastation, reflecting over everything that I could remember in my life. And just lamenting the life that I could have had, the life that I thought I might have, and the life that I might be forced to live from then on. And, it wasn't until I got, I think, the Ehlers-Danlos diagnosis that I really had to reach a place of acceptance or die, essentially. Like, the level of self-worth I had was so low because I felt so utterly irredeemable as a human being because of internalizing all of this pressure of expecting myself to be able to perform the same way and at the same capacity of neurotypical peers, of having that expectation of myself that if they can do it and I'm supposedly smart or I'm gifted or exceptional or whatever, then it should be easier for me. Why do I keep getting yelled at for wetting the bed? Why do I keep getting yelled at for failing to, you know, take care of things the way that things are expected to be taken care of, if I'm this, if I'm that. So clearly there's something wrong with me. Clearly there's something that needs to be fixed. And all that really ended up doing was just devaluing my own sense of self and worth as a human being. It led to multiple suicide attempts, because I clearly wasn't smart enough to find and fix the problem that I had. And what I came to learn as an adult after going through a lot of trauma and a lot of recovery was, nobody's broken. There's not really good or evil. It's kind of all just circumstantial, and we're all just sort of projecting ourselves onto other people, if you will. Like, I came to this awareness that I learned the people and the things that often frustrate me the most, that I find the most obnoxious, the most irritating, are the things that I have to work the hardest on to not do or be myself. And I think of it as a baseline, standard, common good type behavior. And so when other people aren't willing to make that, what I consider bare minimum investment in the social contract. Anyway, it's the crux of this is how do you recover from a meltdown? And the answer is kindness, patience, grace, love, compassion, acceptance. You can't fix yourself. You're not broken. You can't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better about the you statements, because I'm not trying to tell anyone what they can or can't do. I use the royal you or we or I. Is really, I should be saying I. But because of some of my own life experiences, there's not a whole lot of relationship to the word I. So it, Anyway, so meltdowns, essentially the best way to identify, like, the thing that I talk about the most in the support group, at least, is by the time you've had a meltdown, it's already too late. And the real trick is preventing them. I think the idea of, I guess the best example is growing up and having to go to the grocery store with your parents or something like that, right? You're forced to just go into the situation and then try to recover afterwards. But people will generally not give you that grace in your adult life because the world keeps moving. People need your contribution, or your a resource drain on somebody, or like there's a lot of reasons to internalize ableism here, but that's what that kind of speaks to, is this person seems to really to think that it's their job to suffer and fix it later, and that's just not sustainable, because you need to have energy to be able to cope with just your average daily stressors. If you don't have extra bandwidth to handle unexpected things, you're going to find yourself melting down over things that you would normally expect yourself to be able to handle, because life, you can't escape. Oh, that's what's going on. Okay, it looks like the gain was turned all the way up on the microphone. That might be a little too quiet though. I'm gonna do a quick audio test. Test. Yeah, I think that might be too quiet. noticed that it was peaking a lot, so I'm trying to be considerate with the audio. And if any of you are not aware of what peaking is, there's a level meter on, usually when you're recording something, you'll have a huge green bar where you know the audio's going to be able to be picked up because the volume was within the range of what it's trying to do. Then you have sort of a yellow region where you're getting really close to the capacity, like the maximum voltage that the microphone can send through a signal. And then when you hit red, you're too loud, and the microphone can't pick up what you're saying because it's oscillating too aggressively. I'm sure some of the more technical people are gonna get frustrated at the way I generalize that, but just the next time you hear me say, "Oh, it's peaking," it's a reference to that aspect of the volume that the microphone is expecting is not aligned with what it's getting. So I think the key part with a meltdown though is not to, like, there's not really anything that you can do to recover other than give yourself time, patience, grace, kindness, compassion, just accepting that you need to recharge. It's we're not unlike a battery in that when you've used your capacity, you're out, right? They've done a number of studies that show that things like willpower are actually a finite resource, right? Like it is a thing that you can run out of, and then you just don't have willpower anymore, right? And it's that same vein where you think, if I could just suffer through this until I get to the other end, then I can let it out. And that's where the problem is if you're not making time every single day for some type of self-care, if you're not taking an active inventory of, this makes me feel better, this makes me feel worse, this makes me feel more energized, this makes me feel less energized, you're setting yourself up for failure as a person with any kind of disability, period, honestly. Energy management is, or some people know it as spoon theory, is so critical to your health and well-being. As a human being, your survival, honestly, being able to meet your needs, it's so important to have a budget for yourself. So this person, for example, right, like rather than trying to use cries to get out of the rut that they're in, to dump their feelings out, essentially. Because to be clear, crying is very, very important, very effective. It's one of the only ways that your body can actually get rid of cortisol in general. And cortisol causes a lot of damage. One of the biggest things is it shortens the telomeres on your DNA. It makes it where the next time your cells replicate, they're more likely to have an error, which is cancer, which is disease, right? And so it's important to take your feelings seriously because you're killing yourself when you don't, literally, right? You're shortening your life. And I know for a lot of people, and in their youth at least, well, I don't plan to live past 20-something anyway. You probably won't. The number of times I see people go, "Oh, I'm so surprised, never thought I'd live this long." It's like, it's not a good way to plan, right? I've had a life where I can definitely relate to thinking survival's not guaranteed, right? But you can only plan so much for your death, right? It's a lot more valuable to use that time to plan for your life, but you don't want to get trapped in that either. Anyway, to circle back around though, with meltdowns, the key thing to think about is learning the difference between your limit and your breaking point, because a meltdown is what happens after you hit your breaking point. Same thing with burnout, right? An autistic burnout. Oh, my neck. There's a level of difficulty in separating what you might consider consideration, kindness, compassion to other people versus people pleasing or overextending. Like a good example is essentially with meltdown and with burnout, what a lot of autistic people will do is while they're burnt out or melt down, they'll still be thinking about the stuff that they need to have done, and they'll still be committing to other stuff. And then when they finally feel better, not only do they tend to expect themselves to go back to the old patterns that they were able to sustain before, but now also add on it these new obligations that they made during the time that they were burnt out because they're carrying all that shame and guilt. And so you'll find that you'll end up in a cycle of burnout over and over and over again. And it seems like it's because of the situation you're in or the people you're around, and they definitely play a big role. But usually what it boils down to is saying yes to too much because you know what you're capable of, instead of planning for the unexpected and leaving yourself a workable budget for energy and for motivation that you can use later for other activities. You'll burn it on the things that you agreed to out of obligation. So you're not even gaining any energy or personal value out of doing those things. You're just spending again, right? And so the best thing you can do when it comes to addressing meltdowns is take care of yourself. Pay attention to what you're feeling. Feel your feelings. And look for where your limit is. That place where you start doubting and questioning and being uncertain about whether or not you can. You don't need to force yourself through that. Now, in a lot of circumstances, situations, there's nuances where you might need to force yourself to do certain things for the sake of the greater good or what you're trying to accomplish overall. But it's going to be really important to balance that with the fact that you have to live with you for the rest of your life. Whatever short-term, medium-term, long-term goal you have, whatever other human interactions or other people's expectations you might be bumping up against, they don't have to live with you until you die. You do. So what you need and what you want should always be more important, because you have to deal with the consequences of not having those needs and wants met. Now, other people will definitely make you deal with consequences of not meeting their wants or needs. But again, you're not going to be around them for the rest of your life. You'll be around you for the rest of your life, right? Every bit of pain and suffering that they put you through, you likely put yourself through as well. And there's no, at least objective utility in internalizing that expectation other people's have on you into yourself, because you'll be miserable. I mean, it's written right here on the page, right? Like, it's this, they have this expectation that they don't need anyone's help. They hate having feelings. They're trying to promise themselves not to have strong feelings. Like, they're essentially denying their ability to be a human being in almost all this message. And so, of course, you're going to melt down. You're not allowed to exist. That's going to drive anybody crazy. So take care of yourself. Value yourself. Take time off. Take a breather. Play a video game. Talk to somebody who makes you laugh. You don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to fix everything. You can just be. It's okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. I think we have, what time is it? 12:02. See our schedule. So if there's anybody in the chat who has any kind of questions or anything, please feel free to jump in at any point. It's open. And, you know, the goal of what we're doing here is trying to raise money by doing good work. I don't want to do fundraising just for the sake of money. I want to feel like there's an exchange of value. I want to be able to provide something to the community in exchange for y'all's support. So anything that I can help with, feel free to ask. I've got experience as a job coach, a dating coach, or dating and relationships coach. I've been running this support group for several years, so there's a lot of different perspectives from the autistic community that I've been able to absorb from people's real life, real world experience. You know, it's here. We're here to help, and there's no stupid questions. That said, I think we can go ahead and go on to the next one. So, we've got, whoops. Oh, goodness. What am I doing? Freaking out, man. Okay, why does it want to just scroll that far every time? Why is there not a scroll wheel at the bottom? There it is. Found you, sneaky little jerk. Got it. Ish. Good enough. Okay. Oh, it's scrolled too far down now. There we go. Okay. Why do people victim blame a kid who is diagnosed with autism for their behavior? I mean, the short answer is kind of what I talked about earlier, where people don't seem to understand that behaviors and thoughts and actions are all driven by feelings. And if you're not paying attention to or caring about what the person's feeling, then you're going to blame them and make it sound like they chose to behave that way. But let's see what they have to say. I knew a friend who was autistic during my school years. Whenever he gets upset, teachers in the special needs section of... Oh, actually, I'm going to go for a quick BRB because I need to get my water. So bear with us for just one moment. Okay, I definitely need to set up some hold music for that page, but we are back. Okay. Here we go. Let me check the levels. Yeah, we seem good. Test. Perfect. I knew a friend who was autistic during my school years. Whenever he gets upset, teachers in the special needs section of our school still mistreat and emotionally abuse him to the point it messed up his mental health. He told me that they give him timeouts for just having a tantrum when it's something he can't control. Other students fail to understand, even though... Okay, I don't need to do the voice. Other students fail to understand, even though they try to be friends with him. It never lasts. He's treated as an outsider whenever he tries to conform or fit in with the other kids. Whenever he gets bullied, no one stands up, leaving him to fend for himself, which is difficult for an autistic child. He's dealt with that for the past 17 years of school. 17 years of school. time to be in school, and he had no real friends in elementary. It wasn't until high school, 10th grade, is when he got true friends who stayed by his side despite them being in different grades and classes. At least he has real friends to hang out with. Is that enough? Yeah. It's not any better when in his home life, as his parents, like school, don't want to accept the fact that he's medically diagnosed with autism, even though they clearly know. He gets yelled and scolded for simply being upset. Whenever he tries to step up for himself, they bark, "Don't excuse me for your autism, nice try," which offends him deeply. I think this type of attitude from non-autistic people is derivative of criminals who claim the insanity defense in court. Hence why people lose faith on neurodivergent individuals or those with mental illnesses, as those carry a negative stigma, only exacerbated by news and media, e.g. they directly criminalize mental illness, like schizophrenic individuals portrayed as killers. This guy is autistic too, I think. Judging by the writing style, it's usually the bunch of nested paragraphs is a giveaway for me a lot of times. Might be why they have so much empathy for them. Either that or they also... The user is AnimeMan90, so... Okay. Okay, and I think that's as far as it is on the screen, right? Yeah, so we'll just scroll down a little bit for you guys. Maybe here? That's too far. It comes down to culture. It comes down to culture as well. He's Japanese, which reflects on that not many people from that side of the world are born with disabilities, as it's not commonly discussed, as opposed to Western subcultures where it's acknowledged. Also, Japan is a lot more strict on their unwritten rules, social code stuff. The way you have to interact with people is so... Like, it's nice to have rules and structures and stuff, but the costs of failure are so high. He told me once that his parents indirectly think he's stupid as he struggles to complete tasks deemed simple for everyone else. He's also met other autistic individuals in Japan, sharing that they have it hard as there are not many people who have a clear understanding of that, as one of them recalled the time he was deemed slow by his employer as they had never worked with someone with autism before. What makes me really upset is when people blame the victim, in the sense of an individual who is autistic. The thing is that they are normal like everyone else. They learn differently. I started becoming friends with this dude around 7th grade. Back then, I stood by his side whenever both of us are in the same class, since he's easy prey for bullies as he can't take the harassment. He's been dealing with that since elementary. Whenever bullies get to him, teachers always take their side rather than hearing him out. I was expecting there to be a question at the end of it, but I guess... Seems like they've answered their own question, but we could still go into it because it is a big problem. It's likely what was going on with that initial person as well. That internalized ableism, right? It's like one of the most annoying things to hear in any kind of self-help context is, I've got da-da-da-da-da, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. Or if I can do it, so can you. No. That's not how any of this works. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the resiliency of being human and the ability to use our brains to solve problems that we're experiencing in unique ways. Somebody who loses a limb could just as easily say, I'll never be able to do anything like I thought I could ever again because I've relied on this limb my entire life. And nowadays we have some pretty amazing artificial limbs. Like we've finally gotten to a point where people can have proprioception and a sense of touch with their prosthetic limbs. And so it's important to keep that in mind when you're talking about human capabilities, but that can be a slippery slope when you're not careful, because especially if you grew up with a lot of being dismissed and being invalidated, then it's very easy to put yourself into a position where you just accepted being the victim and you have no power, especially when you get reaction responses in school. Like anytime, like my school specifically, for example, we had a zero tolerance policy. And what that meant was if anybody decided to bully you, you got in trouble. Even if you chose not to fight back, even if you did nothing, you still got in trouble. It made no sense to me then. It makes no sense to me now. But it caused a lot of harm. I think one instance I got suspended and punished for being stabbed at school by somebody. And as per usual, it's almost everybody immediately goes to victim blaming, right? Well, what did you do? Surely you must have done blah, 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 blah. No, the situation was they turned off the light in the classroom because they thought it would be funny. I needed the light on because I was trying to finish my classwork before the teacher got there. So I went and I turned it back on. They got it. They turned it back off. I went and turned it back on, and they stabbed me in the arm. There was no escalation. There was no fight. There was no conflict. I didn't call them anything. I didn't say anything. But that's where everyone jumped and everyone went to, right? And, when you're on the spectrum and eye contact's not necessarily your natural thing, and when you get nervous and scared, you rock back and forth and look suspicious, you're kind of screwed. And so you end up finding yourself in a system where it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to lose. And you internalize that, and then you become a loser, right? That's basically what a loser is somebody who thinks they're going to lose at everything, kind of sets themselves up for failure. Because it's a loser is something that somebody else can call you, but unless you already believe it, it means nothing, right? Like if you think you're a winner, somebody calling you a loser just means nothing, ultimately. But when you were never really given the ability to define yourself, and you're forced to take on the labels of the people around you who are taking care of you, or who require you to meet their expectations in order to guarantee you any kind of survival, you will internalize those precepts and views of yourself. And it can be awful because it becomes a perpetuating cycle where you begin to present to the world as desperate, needy, and incapable, and the world perceives you as a drain on its resources at that point then, and you become invalidated, and it gets worse because you're perceived as an obligation. You internalize that you're an obligation. Now you don't feel any sense of self-worth or value in yourself. And that reinforces that sense of feeling like you're a burden on everybody. And like I said, it's sort of self-perpetuating. Like most of the time as an adult, confidence is what gets you the furthest. If you believe you're capable of something, other people often will follow along. Not everybody, And that's why it's important not to have a black and white perspective of things, and why you want to be really careful about the idea of scripting your social interactions. But in general, if you believe in yourself in something and you're confident and passionate, other people will see that, respect it, value it, and treat you accordingly. Bullies are going to be bullies. Jerks are going to be jerks no matter what. There's not a whole lot any of us as individuals can do about it. But that's sort of a big reason why people victim blame when you're autistic, is having a reason for something isn't an excuse. And a lot of people will treat it as though that's how it's being portrayed. Like the number of times I've tried to give a reason for something that like happened at work, only to be told don't make excuses, and to be very confused by that response, because I wasn't asking to be excused. I was giving information, right? Why did you do such and such? Because this, and this. Don't make excuses. Did it? It's like, why? You asked, right? Like it's frustrating. And so eventually you tend to learn to lean into it or give into it. You don't hear a lot of prevailing voices. I mean, this is a big reason why we're doing the fundraising and why the charity's here, why we're here for NeuroUnify, is somebody's got to be out there speaking up for people like that, in a unified way, where it becomes harder and harder to go, well, I saw this on Facebook, or I saw, we worked with Autism Speaks and they said this thing. Like the Twitter army stuff has been really awesome, and the TikTok stuff has been really awesome to see how much change can be made by individuals speaking up loud enough. But I think it's time to have a concerted effort, have an organization out there representing the organizations. Like basically it's time to unionize, right? Because really I don't see how we're going to be able to change the victim blaming mentality without that kind of advocacy. I mean, if you look at sexual harassment, for example, that didn't get better until there was a concerted cultural push from loud enough voices with enough marketing power to be able to get the message out there. Like hashtag believe women, for example. I know there's a lot of conflict around that term, but you can't deny the power that marketing push had on changing the narrative overall. Now it's politics, so it's short-lived. It's going to go back and forth. But the crux of it is that until we're able to create some kind of unified voice or some kind of unified message, we're going to get walked over by people who are just stupidly confident, like the Dunning-Kruger people, right? So just as another reminder, any little bit of help matters. There's, I think, links in the description to our Patreon and our website. We are always looking for volunteers. We need all the help that we can get. Yeah, that would be more clear if I had the proper introduction. I'm really not sure what happened. I spent a long time on this yesterday. Kind of frustrating, but this is a part of what I want to showcase as well. This is why with this stream, I wanted to start, because I have a lot of faith in autistic inertia, first of all, but I also want to show openly, honestly, what it's like to struggle, and that it's okay. I am a perfectionist. I would normally want to spend weeks planning, preparing, scripting, designing, drawing. I would want everything to be perfect so that I could have a clear head and feel like I was doing my best for the people who were listening. What I thought was more important than that, what I've seen in my experiences with facilitating the support group, is there's strength in being vulnerable and asking for help. And what better way to prove to autistic people or neurodivergent people in general that it's okay to need help, it's okay to struggle, it's okay to have problems in public and feel your feelings in public. I'm almost certain in one of these upcoming streams I'm going to have some kind of something go on, right? I'm autistic. I'm facing homelessness. Diet's a little questionable on account of money concerns. But because of the struggle with self-worth and self-value, it never feels like it's okay to ask for help. So after some particularly devastating circumstances showed up, and having a lot of recovery and a really good social support group, I know it's okay to ask for help, and I'm willing to humble myself on a public stage to be open and honest about my problems and my struggles, to show you that you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be perfect to be able to do something important, to be able to do something that matters. Even if the fundraising doesn't go well, at the very least, we've raised enough to be able to help keep the support group afloat for another few months. And that matters, right? Like there's almost 1,000 members on our meetup. We have almost 200 members in the Discord. And that's just for the Dallas-Fort Worth Autism Support Group. I'm really hoping that our NeuroUnify Discord can become a place more for neurodivergence in general, which, by the way, neurounify.com is our website. I was going to say check out the Discord there. I think we're actually linking to the other. Check out the Discord there tomorrow. We'll have some updated links to be able to join the NeuroUnify Discord community and hopefully help us do more. Is it 12:20? Yeah, it's 12:25. So now it is time for a meme break. La 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 la. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the meme page. I did not get very many, but it's still something. How do I get this to go away? There we go. I'm going to try to resize these to a standard size so that we could just scroll through them like we were with the other one. Although the aspect ratio might be a little wonky for some. We'll figure it out. We're smart. Okay, here we go. Content focus. Pew. Okay, so this is our first one. And then after this, I think sorry. No, we'll just keep going. Okay, So what happened to him? He was forced to verbalize a thought. Yeah. I had that struggle with my roommate a little bit. Because most of my thoughts, at least my conscious awareness of my thoughts, happen in words. A lot of times you'll end up defaulting to, what is it? The theory of mind issue, right? You forget. And then I think at one point I actually asked him, and he was like, oh, my thoughts are mostly visual. And I was like, oh. It's like I'd always be like, well, what do you think? What do you think? What are your thoughts? He'd be like, oh. And I'm like, well, just say it out loud. You don't have to say it in your head. And like, that's not what's going on. That's how I think. And I need to say it in my head first before I say it out loud, because otherwise it's just gibberish. And I get the same kind of pressure too sometimes, actually. Yeah, very, very, very much relates to this. It's hard. You need to structure it, especially considering like just misinterpretation, right? Like that stuff gets obnoxious. It's like I got to think of the 50 million ways somebody might interpret this particular word in this context with this situation and this tone of voice and this emotion and there and this day. Like that's so much to think about. Like it's great that neurotypical people are able to like have that kind of internal process happen automatically. I'm very, very proud for them. But for me, it's all conscious effort, right? So being forced to do something quickly is exhausting for sure. Can completely relate. Construction on that. Oh, okay. Cool. Autistics, neurotypicals, social skills. Yeah, cheating. Yeah. Yeah, that goes back to the scripting stuff. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. It's such valuable context I'm adding. But really it's the number of times in my own life and the number of times I've heard in the support group, the phrase, I did exactly what they did and I got in trouble, right? It's you think, God, these walls are scary. You think they're doing this thing, so this is what you do. They're behaving this way, so this is how you should behave. So rarely do we know about all of the legwork that they've put in to build relationships with the people that they're doing those things with, right? Like a neurotypical who can walk up to, like let's give an extreme example. A neurotypical male who walks around the office and tells women they're looking gorgeous or they're looking beautiful today, right? And they're smiling and laughing, right? That seems like, oh, okay. If I'm reading this right, I can go up to these people and tell them that they're beautiful. What key information tends to be missing from there is that person who does that probably also says a whole bunch of other stuff to them. Probably they go to the same church or they go to the same bars or they know each other very intimately outside of that. This person has a reputation for behaving that sort of way. That's their standard, so people have come to expect it from them. They know the motivations behind it because of their natural delivery of it. So when you go up and you repeat the script without all of that context, that's how you end up being a creep or being a weirdo or being portrayed as, what's wrong with that guy? Why did he do it? And it's like, but I did the exact same thing that guy did. Not really. You did one part of it, right? And so it's funny to me with that idea is it feels like cheating, because it is, because you're not actually learning anything. You can get through maybe an experience or a few if you're really good at it, and that's wonderful, but it does not serve you long term. No, learning learning social skills is where that really comes into play. All right, on to the next one. Oh. Yes. Oh my goodness. Me doing stuff while I'm overstimulated. Using the ruler to draw on the pencil. Oh, it hurts. I've done stuff like that so many times, especially like I have some addiction issues still that I'm working on addressing. One thing at a time. But the number of times that I'll have my head everywhere else but where I'm at, and I'll pick up a lighter and try to vape the lighter just because there's the familiarity with smoking cigarettes, and then combine that with the familiarity of the vaping, cold metal object, just be like, what the, oh, right. Like, it, oh, so true. God, I just love the attention to detail. And also, the funny thing, too, is that would actually work. Paper is soft, and that would, either the plastic would rub off or to leave an indent in the paper. And it's a really nice way to get, actually, now that I'm reading it or looking at it again, it could even be like that person is just doing a normal thing. They were like, here's a life hack on how to fold paper without having to draw on it or something, right? Instead of doing it this way, do it the other way around, and then you'll have magic. Use your magical ruler to cover the paper with plastic deliciousness, and it will be yours forever. So 12:34 is the time it is now. It is one of my favorite times of day because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So y'all in the Central Time Zone, celebrate. Yeah. So here's the next one. It's, I'm autistic, but you look normal. Do I? Do I? My favorite response to this is always, and the Oscar goes to. Thank you. Right? There's so much of this going on. Such a fundamental misunderstanding of what autism is. It's not Down syndrome or Fragile X or Marfan's, right? It's not a physical disability. Now, there's certainly overlap with some of the genetics involved, I think. Although I hesitate to discuss genetics unless I get grouped into the eugenics side of things, which is also devastating to me. Let's get rid of an entire class of people who aren't like us because we don't like them. No, I deserve to exist. Thanks, though, bruh. It's just so many issues with prejudices, right? Where somebody will expect you to behave a certain way because you look a certain way, or yeah. Sorry, I have a dissociative disorder, and sometimes I get a little blurry in the head whenever I start thinking about some trauma. And there's definitely a lot of trauma associated with you don't look like you need help. It's one of the reasons that I kind of loathe the concept of high and low functioning. And I try to go more with the support needs aspect of it, because I know plenty of quote-unquote high-functioning people with very high support needs who just don't get support, and people who are quote-unquote low-functioning who really don't need that much, at least additional support, because they grew up in a home where parents weren't forcing their expectations on their kids. So it's a doozy. I'm gonna see. I think that's the end of this meme list here. Yeah, just a little 5-minute meme break. Okay, sorry about the quietness. Let's go back to here. So that ends our meme break. Now the rest of the time is an open Q&A. Now I think the chat is probably going to be relatively quiet. Usually some of the people who would be here are under the weather or doing something else, and so the team that helps support the channel is not in the chat. Now, if anybody is just hopping in out of curiosity, I think I need to move my lighting around. I don't want to have glare on the glasses. Is it this one? Yeah, I think. Which one is it? Yeah. Anyway, I'll fix that. The chat's a little quiet because I haven't, with a bunch of the technical issues we were having the last couple of days, I didn't really feel comfortable doing mass messaging because we had to cancel yesterday. So I'm going to potentially end the stream a little early today to give a little bit more time to give us a little more time to prepare content for tomorrow as well. What are we at? An hour and a half? 12:40. Yeah, so I'll do the best I can to find things to discuss just openly to fill the air and just kind of bring up, hey, if anybody hops in, ask a question, say something in the chat. So I think something good to talk about is, I think, music in general. I want to circle back to what that first person was talking about. I think, like, I've definitely known some autistic people who just can't stand music in general. Now, I would suspect that it's more to do with the music they were exposed to or potentially forced to listen to than music itself, but I don't want to push on that too much. But I did want to talk about something I've noticed recently in regards to sort of like just the prolific nature of, no, I don't want to use the term prolific. In my experiences, music, once you've gotten over the physical, technical hurdle of feeling comfortable playing some kind of instrument, it seems like it's so much easier to communicate one's feelings through music than it is through words, if that makes sense. I've found a lot of value in, we use the term noodling, where it's sort of like letting your body talk, I guess, or it's what they call it, body journaling, in a sense, where you, movement journaling, I think is what it is, where rather than try to force yourself to verbalize your thoughts, you instead, excuse me, rather than forcing yourself to verbalize your thoughts, you instead will choose some sort of movement. And I've noticed that the more comfortable my hands become with the positioning on my current instrument of choice, the electric bass, the easier it becomes to connect with my feelings. Like, I'm not necessarily super musically inclined in that I'm not a virtuoso. I'm not a savant. But I've noticed that once you remove all the judgment of this has to sound good to someone else, or this has to be technically proficient, or I have to do this the right way. There's a right way and a wrong way. And to be fair with playing an instrument, there are ways to play an instrument where you can hurt yourself, and you don't want to do that. But you can definitely make your own technique up if it doesn't hurt, right? And once all that judgment had left, suddenly when I'm feeling intense emotions, I'll find myself just naturally drawn to the instrument, and I'll go over to it and pick it up and, like I said, just sort of express myself for a little bit. And I find that there's a bit of grounding that's really... one of the cats is scratching their claws outside the door. It's kind of distracting. It's very distracting, actually. But that's, if I was playing an instrument right now, I probably wouldn't be having that problem. Actually, yeah, I would be drowning it out. But either way, I'm glad that they're keeping their claws sharp and, being good cats. But there's so I wanted to bring up, for anybody who's listening to this at any point, usually it's worth it to pick up an instrument and try to connect to it. If you think you have the capacity to, even for a couple moments, not judge yourself while you sing or dance or pick up a recorder or a guitar or violin, whatever instrument, a triangle, when you connect to it, there's a sense of freedom and release that is very hard to get anywhere else. So I would highly recommend it for pretty much anyone on the spectrum. I think there's something, like, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the term monotropism, or the idea that one of the main functional differences between autistic and neurotypical is the singular direction in the way our minds process things. But that's kind of why I think instruments are so wonderful at that, because it's a more natural and innate way for people to communicate. Like, tone and words being different. Like, how do I word this? The most common miscommunication that happens when you're on the autism spectrum is somebody listens to your tone and not your words. Well, you know where you don't have that issue? Music. You just let your instrument do the speaking. There's no... it depends on what you mean by misinterpretation, but in a sense, there's no misinterpretation. Somebody's not likely, like, unless you're doing lyrics. I'm more speaking of a musical instrument itself. Nobody's gonna... Not nobody, actually. There's so many musical elitists out there. I was gonna say nobody's gonna argue with you, but there are people who will say that you're not playing the right thing, or you should have done this instead of that, and those people are wrong. That's what they would prefer, but it's art. There's no right or wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's just, like, my brain is kind of going all over the place at the moment. I think... Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and call this stream early. Not too much, thankfully. We're 20 minutes minutes early, give or take. But this is part of what I was referring to earlier about trying to avoid internalized ableism and show that it's okay to be imperfect, because on the one hand, I feel like because I made a commitment and verbalized it that this stream is going to be from 11:11 to 1:11, Monday through Friday, every day, that means that I have to do it forever. And if I don't do exactly that, then I'm a bad person or I'm wrong. And that's just not true. Like one of the things that the internalized ableism does to me is, you know, it'll put this thought in my head for this example of you're leaving early, you're quitting because you can't do it. You shouldn't be doing it. You should give up now. You should stop doing this. Give up, walk away. You know, trust your instinct. Your instinct's not saying take a break. It's saying you can't do this. And it's wrong. Because the reality of the situation is I'm paying attention to my body. I'm paying attention to my mind. I'm respecting my own wants and needs first. So, yes, there is a small chance that somebody who is expecting me to be here until 1:11 shows up 10 minutes before the stream is supposed to end, thinking there's going to be time to ask a question, and I'm not here. And that would be upsetting to me and probably upsetting to them. However, in most cases, most people who actually care, if they were to find out that the reason I left early was because I started having brain dysfunction and stomach pain, I don't think they would want me to stay on the stream just for the sake of that question. And if they did, that's a person who's not really concerned with my well-being. And so their opinion wouldn't, in the long term, be particularly valuable to me either. You understand? So, you know, I want to be open about what I'm feeling right now. I feel like walking away is close to failure, but at the same time, this is what recovery looks like, is recognizing those old patterns, those old behaviors, having the conscious oversight to be able to be a witness to them and not feel like the perpetrator of it, right? Like, I don't feel like I'm responsible for that thought that says, you're screwing up, you didn't do it right, you're a failure, you know, nothing's ever going to work. I hear it, and I accept and I acknowledge that there's value in that voice, and whoever is saying that has their reasons. It's either internalized to some sort of survival thing. Like, there's a purpose behind it that I can respect and appreciate, but I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to absorb it. I don't have to make it who I am. And so I'm hoping that even in not being able to do what I said I was going to do, I'm actually still doing what I said I was going to do, which is trying to show in real time that it's okay to be human. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay if you can't keep it together until the end of the semester, right? This is a perfect example. I love that I'm able to bring this full circle. This is the crux of where that struggle comes from, right? You find yourself in a position like this. I said I would do this. I am an honest and authentic and integral person, and I believe in integrity. So the only way to maintain that self-image is by doing X. But I'm going to have to deal with ignoring these symptoms later, no matter what. The longer I delay them, the worse it's going to be for me, which likely will cost more in the long term, because then there will be more recovery time, less research time for tomorrow's drink. It'll create a cycle, right? And that's what we want to be able to showcase. That's what we're trying to generate and raise funds for. That's what we're here for, is to help people break that cycle. And one of the ways that I'm going to show you how you can break the cycle is by trying to be a role model and saying, yes, I committed to 11:11 to 1:11 Central Time. However, because of my mental health, because of my physical health, I've changed my mind. And I'm allowed to do that. And that's okay. And if you care about me, if you care about the community, if you care about what we're doing, you'll be okay. If you think your needs are more important than everybody else's, or more important than mine, then you probably won't be okay with it. But you're also telling me who you are by having that reaction and response. You're telling me that you don't care about my feelings, so it doesn't matter what I say or do. You're going to have your opinion anyway. I'm not going to be, even if I do everything you want, I'm not going to make you happy, because usually that would imply some kind of reciprocity that's just not going to happen. And so unless like, basically people like that, usually the only thing that will make them happy is other people being miserable, right? And I don't think that's a worthwhile trade. So we're going to call this stream a little early. It's 12:53 right now. And I really appreciate those of you who are watching this live on Twitch, and for those of you watching this later on YouTube, if you made it to the end, just type in the word cement shoes, CEMENT shoes, in the comment to let me know that you made it this far. And we love you, and we're here, we're listening. And also feel free to DM and check out the website. We got a Patreon you can subscribe to help us out. We've got a neurounify.com. There's a donate link on the website you can go to check to help us out. Well, also, like I said, I'll have up there today, or by tomorrow, the link to the Neurounify Discord, so you can join us there. I'll also try to put that on the Twitch info, and maybe we'll get a Twitch bot as well to help keep that in the chat. So until next time, stay unified.